The Carthaginian religion compared with Babylonian and Assyrian. Very little is known concerning the religion of the Semites of Carthage, those colonists from Phoenicia who settled on the northwestern shores of Africa at an early date, and this is probably owing to the circumstance that the jealousy of their Roman conquerors ordained that all records pertaining to them so far should be blotted out. The Roman Empire appears to be a unification of all the previous religions. Another root we find in the Babylonian influence upon the Greek culture, from Greece to Rome and so forth. In Virgil's Aeneid, we find Queen Dido of Carthage worshipping and sacrificing to the gods of Rome. But whether this error is due to Roman lack of imagination or otherwise, it would be difficult to say. Carthaginian religion was strongly influenced by Assyrian belief. The chief gods worshipped in Carthage were Baal Ammon or Moloch, Tanit, Tanith, the goddess of the heavens and the moon. Astarte Ishtar and Eshmun, the patron deity of the city. The cult of Tammuz Adonis was so greatly in vogue, as was that of the god Patekos or Patechus, a repulsive monster worshipped as a god, who may have been of Egyptian origin. The amulet of Patechus from Lower Egypt dates back to 664 BC. The Tyrian Melkarth, the Carth from Carthaginian, was also widely worshipped. We also encounter in inscriptions the names of deities concerning whom we know nothing, such as Rabat Ummah, the Great Mother, Ilat, Sakon, and Saphon. In Sanskrit, Ilat, Ilata, refers to botheration, malady, or addicted to vice, similar to the meaning of Christ, addiction, affliction. And Ilata, or Ilatha, refers to an implement or a tool. It also means mischievous or vicious, especially a child. I wonder which god would be addicted to being vicious to a child, and also which child would be addicted to being vicious. About the beginning of the 3rd century BC, the intimate relations between the Carthaginians and the Greeks of Sicily favored the introduction of a Hellenic element into the Punic religion, and there was reciprocal borrowing on the part of the Greeks. In the Forum of Carthage was a temple to Apollo, containing a colossal statue, which was later removed by Rome. And on one occasion, the Carthaginian worshippers of Apollo actually sent offerings to Delphi, the seat of the oracle. My great-grandfather came over from Sicily. His name would have been Giovanni Apollyon, and when he came to Britain, the name became John Appleby, which is a good example of how things can change very quickly by nothing more than a flick of a quill and a change of mind. The only real change is in the language. We also find their goddess Tanit compared with the Greek Demeter. Her symbol is a crescent moon, and in her temple at Carthage was preserved a famous veil, Iliim, to keep something hidden, Ilat, Ilata. It's worth noting that I discovered this connection by simply rearranging the vowels of the word Elohim. The famous veil was regarded as the palladium or mascot of the city, its luck bringer. In Babylon, Pazuzu is the luck bringer, the protector over children, who was placed behind the Papaku, the hidden area. And what we see here is Lamashtu, who is the famous veil of Pazuzu, Papaku. Inscriptions to Tanit and Baal Ammon are bound together, and as these are usually found in conjunction, it is only reasonable to suppose that these two deities were worshipped together. For example, without Lamashtu, there would be no need for Pazuzu. Tanit was in fact frequently alluded to as the countenance of Baal, whose name we find in those of the Carthaginian heroes, Hannibal and Hasdrubal. The Carthaginian Baal Ammon is represented as an old man with ram's horns on his forehead, and that animal was frequently portrayed alongside him, meaning it was its chosen sacrifice, similar to Jesus and Malak, the angel of the Lord, Lord meaning Baal. He also holds a scythe. At Carthage, children were sacrificed to him. So according to the Lamashtu stele, Pazuzu is the countenance of Baal. Baal, to twist, convulse, the symbol of two serpents entwined and facing one another. Their poor bodies were placed in the arms of a colossal bronze statue which represented him, amid the excited cries of the fanatical worshippers. Even Roman severity could not put an end to these horrors, which persisted in secret until a relatively late date. Iliim, Iliat, Iliata. It is strange to think that after the fall of Carthage, the goddess Tanit became identified with Dido by the new Roman colonists of the city. Virgil had celebrated her misfortunes, and a public Dido cult grew up. This would mean the people are being demonized through public worship. The nobility worshipping Baal in secret. These colonists also claimed to have discovered the very house which she had watched the departure of Aeneas, it is not unlikely that through the agency of the Phoenicians, some fragments of the Babylonian religion may have penetrated even to our own shores in Britain. In the north, it would be found in the work of Saint Bede. Saint Michael's Mount, Saint Malak's Mount, was a Phoenician tin port, and we know that they traded for tin with the ancient inhabitants of Cornwall. The land was known as Danmonium, the land of the giants. Apparently, the Phoenicians believed they were a separate race from man, in fact, giants, who were hunted down and killed in Britain. Don't forget, all mythology has its root in truth. The trade was between Cornwall and the Sicilian Isles, and some writers believe they have philosophy on their side when they try to show that several Cornish names are of Phoenician origin. Dan Mon Eum is a fine example. Another example is Mara Zion, which appears to mean in Semitic, the hill by the sea, St. Michael's Mount, and Polgarth, say some, owes its second syllable to the Phoenician word for city. In Babylonian, Eridu means fire city or fire creature, and this is a tin port, so it would be an Eridu, a hill of fire. It also conceals a fire god under the disguise of a city god. Again, this would be Baalism, the hill, the mound, the breast of Danu, representing the female, and also merged with tin production. Initially, the demons were merged with medical practice, and this is merely another branch. We see then that the Semitic religion traveled over a considerably wide area, that beginning, in all probability, in Arabia. It spread itself through Mesopotamia northward as far as Lake Van, and southward through the Sinaitic Peninsula into Egypt and North Africa. It is strange to observe that the later Semitic religion of Muhammad followed almost precisely the same course. The symbol of sin is 3 branches, which may be Christianity, Judaism, and Mohammedanism. 2 are in a perpetual state of war, and we have to turn the other cheek. I remind you that Jesus stood against them, which led to his persecution. But I think we all know he'd do it again. Mohammedanism followed precisely the same course, and that its early progress, moving westward, halted almost on every site of ancient Carthage, that when it overflowed into Spain, its disciples were acting precisely as the Carthaginian Hannibal had done long before, and that it was beaten back. Yes, I'm getting ready. By European effort, in almost exactly the same way. When they were up, they were up, and when they were down, they were down, and when they were only halfway up, they were neither up nor down. We seriously need to be aware of the sweeping nature of our wrath. Robertson Smith, in his valuable work, The Religion of the Semites, mentions that, in his view, I tend to agree, Semitic religion does not differ fundamentally from other types of world religion, as many writers on the subject appear to think. The prolonged isolation to which the Semitic peoples seem to have been subjected appears to have greatly affected their manner of religious thought. They are, in truth, a peculiar people, practical yet mystical. The Shipu were also practical and yet mystical, strongly of the world, yet finding their chief solace in those things that are not of this world. The materials for a complete inquiry into the history of the Semitic religion are lacking, and therefore we must perforce fill up the gaps, which are many, by comparative methods. But in this we are greatly assisted by the numerous manifestations of Semitic faith, including, as it does, Babylonian, Assyrian, Canaanitish, Phoenician, Arabian, and Mohammedan cults that provide us with rich comparative material.